Apple has had its fair share of budget-oriented products over the years, some that delivered incredible value for the features it offered, and some that just left out too many features and were priced too high to recommend even to budget-oriented customers. The previous Apple Watch SE being one of those products that delivered on that great value, but still missed out on having features that may have been deal breakers for some users. But I think that's about to change because I have been wearing every Apple Watch since its release. I've reviewed them all, so believe me when I tell you that even I am surprised that Apple decided to release this, the new Apple Watch SE, because after using this watch, I'm having a hard time deciding not which customer should buy this watch, but the opposite. I'm having a hard time recommending the more expensive Apple Watch models. Okay, let's flash back a bit so I can tell you what's new with the SE3, because even I was surprised during the initial unboxing that parts that Apple used to cheap out on, like not including a fast charging cable, has been completely fixed with this new watch. It now includes a fast charging braided Apple Puck, and it can fast charge just like the other Apple Watch models, although the SE fast charging times are still lower than the new watches. Handling the new SE, it is identical to the design of the last iteration, so it still uses an aluminum casing, but on the back it has the cheaper nylon composite backing, which is similar to plastic, but a fancy enough word to get its own wording. And unlike previous years where the SE had 3 color options, well, this year it only has 2, silver and midnight. So pick your favorite. The outward design is also the same as last year's SE with the same 44 and 40 millimeter case size options. And in fact, the design from this Apple Watch is the same as the Series 6, which is kind of crazy that that is a 5-year-old design. Put it next to the new Apple Watch Series 11, and you can see exactly why the design is older. It has a smaller screen, bigger bezels, and a little bit thicker design than the Series 11. Still, as Apple tells us, design isn't just how it looks, it's how it works. And for the most part, the experience of using the SE, even next to more premium watches like the Series 11, feels pretty much identical in day-to-day usage. And that's because of a few things that Apple surprisingly added to the SE this year. That would start with the addition of the S10 chip, which is the same exact chip that Apple uses for the more expensive Series 11 and the Apple Watch Ultra 3. And that's great news. That takes out a big deciding factor opting for the cheaper model, which sometimes means getting a device with less performance. But no, the SE will load things just as fast as they do on the more expensive Apple Watch models. The operating system will be just as responsive, and more importantly, this watch will receive just as many future software updates as any of the other ones Apple is currently selling. And while Apple says the SE only has 18 hours of battery life, I have been finding that estimate to be really low. I am wearing the 44 millimeter version of the Apple Watch without cellular, and after using my watch for a full day with sleep tracking, I find that my battery is usually around 40 to 50% the next day. So I would say it's, maybe barely about 2 full days of battery life, and that is without activating low power mode, which could extend the battery life even more. So I don't think that 24-hour rating for the new Apple Watch Series 11 is as important as you might think it is. And by far the biggest addition to the Apple Watch SE is that this is the first SE model to include an always-on display, which is just as big, if not a bigger deal than the normal iPhone 17 finally getting 120 Hz this year. In fact, the lack of that always-on display feature was primarily one of the reasons why I would usually suggest spending more money on the higher-end Apple Watch models in previous years. But this year, you really don't have to worry about it. But if you are being nitpicky, of course, this is still an SE model, so there are some drawbacks here with the display. First of all, it only maxes out at 1000 nits of brightness, whereas the Series 11 goes to 2000 nits, and the Ultra 3 goes up to 3000 nits. In indoor use, it's hardly an issue at all. All watches are clearly legible, and even outside the 1000 nit display, it's still viewable, but this is where the Series 11 and especially the Ultra 3 show a noticeable advantage to the screen contrast and legibility, especially in bright, direct sunlight. And yes, thank Tim Cook that it finally has an always-on display, but it is missing some of the more advanced features from the LTPO3 display in the Series 11 and Ultra 3, Primarily, that is that the screens refresh at a faster rate, enabling the watch faces to show the seconds hand ticking, and the screens retain better brightness when viewing them at an angle. Now, as I said before, the experience of using the Apple Watch SE was pretty much identical to the Series 11, but for one big exception in my book, and that is that, strangely, this still does not have a native QWERTY keyboard, and the only option for text input is the scribble method, where you trace out letters, or dictation, which is primarily the way I think most users input text into their watch, but missing out on the keyboard is one of those features where I kind of infrequently use it, but when I do want to use it, it's nice to have and I miss it. So when entering the occasional password or texting in a discreet way, I kind of wish the SE would have the native keyboard. It's probably like the biggest missing feature for me coming from a Series 11. But not a deal breaker, and so far so good. When you compare it to the more expensive Series 11, the SE is looking like an amazing value. It has the same chip, a similar always-on display, the same storage, and based on my usage, it even has better than 24 hours of battery life. And if you pick the cellular version, you even get the same new 5G cellular capabilities, but at a lower $50 upgrade cost compared to the $100 upgrade on the Series 11, which only highlights the value of the SE3 even more. So what gives? Why is this watch so cheap? Well, what continues to be the main differentiator year after year between the basic Apple Watch model and the higher end variants are Apple's health sensors. Now, the SE3 does come with two of them. It comes with a heart rate monitor, and this year, it even comes with the wrist temperature sensor, which can track your body temperature while you're sleeping, and it gives women the ability to track their cycle and ovulation, which is a great feature, but I just can't test it. The SE3 also gets the new sleep score tracking feature, which I have been using pretty frequently on this watch, and I do like the additional data the new sleep score gives you on watchOS 26, which I think helps better explain if you actually had a good or bad night's sleep pretty easily with the data it gives you. Now, what it's still missing is the blood oxygen sensor, which can detect your blood oxygen levels, obviously, and the ECG electrocardiogram feature, which can detect signs of an irregular heartbeat, and it also lacks the new hypertension tracking on the Series 11, which could alert users of chronic high blood pressure. And really, that is what you give up by going for the SE. You give up on a little bit of peace of mind. But I do have to say the same thing that I say every year. So forgive me if you heard this before, because these health features are indeed potentially life-saving features, and if you are someone that gets alerted to high blood pressure, or your Apple Watch picks up that you have an irregular heartbeat, and you get medical advice that saves or improves the quality of your life because of that, that is a feature you really can't put a price on. You can't put a price on health, and everyone watching this video would easily spend the $150 extra to be alerted to those health conditions if they had them. But thankfully, that's not a problem most people are going to have to deal with. Most people are never going to take advantage of those health sensors. I know that so far in the 10 plus years I've been wearing Apple Watches, not once have these more expensive health features offered any value to me, and that is something I am thankful for. However, what did offer value to me are the health features that are already on the SE, primarily the fitness tracking features, which everyone can take advantage of. These fitness tracking features count your steps, your exercise minutes, your stand hours, and an overall estimate of how many calories you burn during your daily activities, your workouts, and your overall calorie expenditure at the end of the day. That feature is something I have used on every single Apple Watch I have worn. It has reminded me to move more throughout my day, to be a little bit more proactive about my health, and I think the Apple Watch has ultimately made a healthier version of myself. And it's not like the SE3 doesn't include any life-saving features, and I think by the sheer amount of stories I've read, the ones that the SE3 has are the most life-saving features, like high and low heart rate notifications and fall and car crash detection. When it comes to Apple Watches saving lives, it's those features I've read about in the news more often than not. So are there things missing on the Apple Watch SE? Yes, but there's even less missing here than ever before. And the features it is missing are, again, hopefully features that you would never wind up using in the first place. At this point, the SE has all the Apple Watch basics like fitness tracking, notifications, reading messages, getting phone calls on your wrist, sleep tracking, listening to music on the built-in speaker. Okay, no one's doing that. And yes, checking the time without having to move your arm. The biggest compliment I can give to the new SE is I've been wearing it in place of my Series 11, and day to day, it's felt like exactly the same watch. I actually think the biggest feature the SE is missing this year isn't a feature at all. It's just additional color options and styles that the more expensive Apple Watches offer, which is even more important of a consideration for something you wear on your wrist all day. But I'm not going to give you a fashion lesson, quite frankly, because I'm not qualified. And all I am qualified to say is that the new Apple Watch SE, it's an absolute no-brainer. It is the best valued Apple Watch that has ever been made, and most people are not going to get an additional $150 in value upgrading to the next model. So if this is your first Apple Watch model, if you're someone upgrading from a Series 6 or older, this is the one I'd recommend. Give it a go. I think this is the easiest recommendation I'm gonna have to make all year. So hopefully this video helped you out in deciding if the new Apple Watch SE is right for you. If it did, please give me a like. If you want to purchase an Apple Watch SE, consider using my affiliate link in the description below. Helps me out a little bit. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.